Provo, Utah. This is the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast with your hosts, Joseph DeGolier and Caleb Schweiss. This is Ultima Final Fantasy.
Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate solo Final Fantasy podcast. I am your host, Caleb Schweiss.
I'm your other solo host, Joseph DeGolier.
And we also have a guest on to help us recount the interesting story of the Dragonsong Wars. Krinital, Italiame.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, you know the man well. You know his name, if you will. So, yes, today we are going to be reviewing the Dragonsong War questline, expansion, whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it's sort of Heavensward Part 2, really.
Yeah, it's Heavensward 2. Heavensward 2, yeah, for sure. It does continue this on along a similar path. It almost breaks up about halfway through and then becomes something else, but it's all connected in the end. Good stuff. We'll get into that here shortly. But before we do, we have to announce a marathon that's already one day past when you guys are hearing this episode. Unless you're listening to it early on Patreon. We are doing 14 hours of Final Fantasy XIV, the first 14 hours of Stormblood. We're going to be running tomorrow morning, Joe. Pretty excited about that. I talked Joe into doing a optional dungeon every 2 hours. So we're going to do 7 optional dungeons during this playthrough.
Was it every 2?
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Well, dude, there aren't any dungeons in the first little bit of this expansion as is, so we're going to want something to get us away from the cutscene grind, to be completely honest.
Okay, I got a list here.
Does that sound about right, though, Krinital?
About 7 more dungeons to cover? Yeah.
No,
a lot of cutscenes in Stormblood.
No, needing dungeons to interrupt the mass of cutscenes and dungeonless content in the beginning is more what I was touching on.
You're trying to cut through all the dungeons to get through all the cutscenes?
No.
Yes.
Are there many dungeons in the beginning of this fucking expansion?
You gotta be more clear, man. You're mumbling there. It's kind of hard for me to understand. Yes. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 dungeons and then 2 extras at the end.
Okay.
And would you say that the Stormblood content, just for the first, does it compare to how much content there was for the first half of Heavensward? Is that still about even? I believe there were about 5. I think there were 5 dungeons for Heavensward.
That sounds about right for length of dungeons. Story content?
More or less.
I feel like there's just a little bit more. Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Of course, it did take just a little bit longer than some dungeons when trying to clear the final boss. Rather than in Heavensward, you killing the final boss was like, oh, I actually killed the boss. It was here for 3 seconds. This one, I've been spending, 18 rounds trying to kill the guy?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a good sign for
This is a final boss. So classification of, is this game now feeling like it's an actual difficulty? Yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, of course, we are playing fresh content when it's released, as opposed to content that was released a year and a half ago, as we have been doing with this game up to this point. So, I'm looking at the quest line, or the list of quests right now, and it looks like Heavensward had 94 quests, and Stormblood has 122 quests in it. Which 136 would be our total quest count up to this point from Heavensward to the end of Dragonsong War. So it's almost as long as what we've done so far with 14 in the last, 2 months or however long we've been playing this game.
I've had 3 subscription fees, Schweiss.
Okay.
So, and the most recent one was about a week ago, so it has been just a little over 2 months.
Okay.
It hurts. It hurts a little bit. Mostly
Scalp
because...
and grind, man. Scalp and grind.
Krinital, have you seen our list on our site? Have you seen how far it goes? Because I recounted it the other day after some new Final Fantasies, had it been put on there.
You talk about your complete list of games you've completed and yet to complete?
Yes.
Yes. We are not halfway. We have 46 games left.
Good.
And Stormblood only counts for one game.
Of course, we did count Dragonsong War as a game on that list as well. So, I mean,
that is true.
So we're done with one. Now we added one, but we finished one as well. So kind of in the same place, right?
Okay, 45 games left.
You just flipping switches, man. One on, one off. One on, one off. One on, one off.
One done, one released. It's like the Hydra. This Final Fantasy series is the Hydra. We cut off one head.
Rough. It is rough, dude.
Yeah.
It's just...
Just wait. You're going to get to the core after 46 games, and then Square is going to surprise you with another 10 more games.
They don't surprise us with another 10 more games. They need to put at least, 3 Final Fantasies a year? It seems to be the average right now. So, it's...
yeah.
That's like... Every 4 years, they'll add a year of this podcast.
That is very true. Very true.
We got some serious typing going on, and it's driving me nuts, Krinital.
I'm sorry.
This is the first time UFF has ever been done over Skype.
Really?
I just couldn't get down to Provo in time. So this is how it's gonna work. Full explanation on Nude Clan. If you want to listen to that, which is another show of ours, of course, guys. If you're just listening to this review content, there is another show out there called Ultimate Final Fantasy, where it's a weekly Final Fantasy podcast that goes into news, answers listener questions, and we talk and joke about Final Fantasy all the time. UltimateFinalFantasy.com is where you can find that. You can tweet me, your beloved host, at Joseph DeGolier.
Me at UFF Podcast.
And me at Krinital.
And also, the best, we have a couple Discord channels you can join if you want to, and you can do that through Schweiss or through Krinital, as well as if you're playing 14 right now, there is what do they call them? Link shell?
Free company.
What the hell? Free company. There's a free company in there called Nude Clan, based on our kind of, I guess, flagship podcast. That's how we see it anyway. And anyway, you guys can go on there and join the free company. And the way to do that would be by tweeting Krinital. Are you guys ready to review the second half of Heavensward?
Sure.
Yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so there is not really any development history that I know of for the second half of Heavensward. We're basically reviewing expansion content or patch content right now, and the way patches work in 14 is that they release a patch? How often do they release a patch, Krinital?
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months they release a patch, and sometimes it expands the story. And it kind of leads up to, we only have 2 expansions now, but we assume it'll keep going on this route. It kind of leads up to the next expansion story-wise, and opens up the world for the next area. So that's what this did in between the bulk of the Heavensward content that we already reviewed, and then, of course, what we're going to review next, which is Stormblood, which we bitched about having to stay 2 more months in the game. Not that the game's not fun. It's just we got a lot of games to beat. Anyway, so I do have a story overview here. And Krinital,
Sure.
because you're the expert here, you're the man. There's a reason why we always invite you on these 14 episodes. Feel free to stop me at any time and explain.
Wait. You put me issues all the time? I thought you kept calling for Call Up Craig. Why is Craig not here?
Craig's never played 14. Craig played it for like 10 minutes, and it was awful.
You're the 14 expert, so if I get anything wrong in the story, if you want to expand on it, please go ahead. So we begin the patches of Heavensward with searching for the missing members of the Scions of the Seventh Dawn. Mm-hmm. Upon hearing of Thancred, the Scions come across the Warriors of Darkness, which were teased out at the end of Heavensward, or maybe it was just like the first cutscene of this patch. I'm not entirely sure. But I got excited when I saw the Warriors of Darkness thing was going to be something that they were going to do in 14.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
our history with FF3.
Yeah, that's something we haven't seen for, like 3 years on this show, Warriors of Darkness. And I mean, personally, one of the things we mentioned during our review of FF3 was how much we wished the story would have been told through their eyes, because it would have been like an interesting opposing force kind of a tale, as opposed to being the heroes, the light side, the good side. You were the evil side or the dark side. It's not necessarily evil or good. It's just a balance thing.
It's not evil, no.
Yeah, so I was pretty pumped about that too when I saw that cutscene. I was like, oh man, that's way cool. It's like another callback, and then maybe they'll explore it in kind of a different way. So, yeah, it was pretty.
And they do a little bit, and they cover a little bit of their backstory in the Dragonsong War. I'm sure you've seen in different parts where they talk about their background, how they're from a whole different world, which is one of the dying crystals, and they're in this world to stop the whiteout, which is the reverse of the darkness in their background.
Right, yeah.
What their objective is basically to stop the light from winning. But they don't really go deeper into that, so they realize that they can't win, so they have to call upon help from Minfilia/Hydaelyn. Don't really know which difference right now because one's unconscious. So they pretty much borrow Minfilia and bring her back to the world of the Warriors of Darkness to repair their crystal.
Yep. That's about a third of my write-up there, Krinital. Thank you. So anyway, so this guy, Thancred, what do you guys think of the character Thancred, who comes with the Warriors of Darkness?
It's pretty much... He's as based with his entire story arc from the entire Realm Reborn and Heavensward. He's pretty much philanthropist playboy, likes to hit up the ladies, and debonair badass who likes to dress up as a ninja or a rogue from when his teachings are from, and pretty much be the kind of like underground hero that nobody ever really wanted or needed, but kind of okay that he's there.
Yeah,
I kind of dig him.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he's not getting taken over by the Ascians, he's fine, right?
Right. Was he the guy who was introduced naked, where he was like fighting naked with
with a nath or bath?
Right.
Yeah, I like main characters who don't get taken over by the
darkness.
By the yeah.
I think my favorite member of the Fellowship is Boromir. I'm gonna have to say it.
Yeah, so Thancred's your favorite.
So maybe there's a pattern there. Anyway, so Emmerich, meanwhile, is working towards a peace treaty with the dragons, and Vidofnir the dragon arrives to accept the Ishgardians' proposal for peace, but Nidhogg comes in and shits all over their plans. Before this happens, though, there's like a lot of there's a lot of angry mob-ish activity going on in the kingdom. And one specific scene that I'm thinking of is when, like, the barmaid, I think she tries to poison you. Can you remember the specifics of what happens in that part, Krinital?
What happens is that you have ventured from a long journey of saving the land at the time from Nidhogg's reign, and you stop off at Falcon's Nest to rest your weary feet. And just so happens you have been called unaware to that location because there's an event going on hosted by Sir Emmerich. When stepping into that bar, you sit down for some chat and some idle rest from your weary days. The barmaid shows up and realizes who you are, gives you a drink, and then subsequently knocks you unconscious in order to rain on the parade of the party. And you wake up 2 hours afterwards, realizing you have just been knocked unconscious by a sleeping potion, and realize that she has gone psycho and has decided to push the Dragon War further into chaos because she can't let go of the dragons killing her husband.
Right, yeah. She basically Bill Cosby's you and just goes to town, and they set up this. There's even a part during this expansion where it's almost like a coup. They try to kill Emmerich. A guy walks by him and just stabs him right in the gut. Like, this is shit's hitting the fan in this city here, and people are not cool. They're not cool with the idea of making peace with the dragons. I mean, Heavensward, the whole point of Heavensward was Ishgard, right? Like, that's what we saw every single time we saw anything about Heavensward was Ishgard and the dragons and the dragoons, the mortal enemies of these dragons. So, like, this is like trying to get Mongolians and Chinese to get along, you know, back when they were still trying to build the wall to keep them out. Like, this is some heavy shit, like, almost impossible to do. So a lot of people are really not for it. And then we have people screwing the pooch, like that, what is that little kid's name? One of the brothers. I can't remember what his name is. But he tells one of his bodyguards or one of his men to, like, silence this girl who's rousing a crowd, and he freaking shoots her with an arrow and, like, kills her. I was like, "Jeez, dude." Eminellan or whatever.
The House for Tom's son is not a very bright fellow.
No, the Eminellian guy. He's like, "Oh, take care of her," and the guy's like, "All right," and he just shoots her, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And he just shoots her again.
That was
so, like,
I thought that was a really cool section of the game.
Yeah,
yes, a lot of drama,
and it was very dramatic, and it wasn't as drawn out as most of the kind of stuff in 14 is. I loved the performance of the voice actress who was playing the barmaid / protester on the wall
/ Bill Cosby. Yes.
Yeah. I really liked her voice acting performance. I thought that part was really dramatically interesting. Just the politics going on there. The one brother, of course, being just the shittiest leader ever, and then getting smacked around for it later on.
Oh no, he is almost decked in the face by the Hero of Light, but then Thancred, the man of pure patience and control, takes the reins, clenches his fists, and knocks the guy's teeth out.
Yeah, I was actually, like, really into all the stuff that was going on when it came to, like, the actual Dragonsong War, and then of course, as Warriors of Light, you have to go stop Nidhogg, who is kind of like shitting on this whole. He doesn't want the dragon peace treaty to happen. And so you got to go stop him, and you got to get Racefelger, which is like the white dragon.
The brother of Nidhogg.
And he makes you do some trials, which I'm really freaking sick of in RPGs, which is like, hey, you know.
Hey, what you gonna do, man?
In order to impress me to help, and so that we can make this take even longer, you must now go and do some trials for the sake of proving thyself in mine eyes, so that I may help thee. No, come on. Like, what is this?
Well,
but hey, you know what? You need to go get to the island. There's this dick named Garland. He took my daughter. If you could just go grab her, and then I can build you a bridge. Come on.
It's like, you could build me the bridge now, is what you're saying. You just really want me to go do this other thing. Like, don't confuse what you're willing to do with what you can do here.
Anyway, so you go fight Nidhogg, and then you bring an end to the Dragonsong War, as it is officially that way in the patches. But then the story continues in the patches.
Yeah.
Those things. Go ahead.
Before we get to that, though, I mean, we do see this epic scene where they're finally coming to terms with each other, and like, we're here, we're ready, we've got a representative of each nation. We built this awesome shrine of peace, like, dedicated to this day. And that goddamn Estinian, aka Nidhogg, comes in and just wrecks the dragon that's like coming for the peace treaty, and like just fucking owns and then just takes the fuck off. That was awesome.
Takes a chunk of meat right out of Vidofnir.
Yeah, Vidofnir just gets crushed, like still alive, but of course. But yeah, it just like shits on this entire thing that we've spent basically the entirety of this expansion and then this add-on trying to accomplish. Just bleh. In a one fell swoop, just like screwed. It's a great cutscene.
Yeah, that was a really interesting scene as well. There's actually a lot in this kind of section of Heavensward that is a lot more cinematic than, I say, the first section of Heavensward. It reminds me of the care. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Maybe the quality of storylines in the patches has to do with like the time that they take in between patches to make everything that they're gonna make for the next release, and maybe they have more time to actually do that piece by piece than they are. The makers of the game are to do an entire one expansion all the way through. I don't know if you guys have felt that way, but I feel like storyline wise, or at least scene wise, although it still has its long drawn out little scenes everywhere, there's really good stuff in the expansions of A Realm Reborn from 2.55 on, and then Heavensward from, is it 3.55 on? I like just the scenes that we had where the bad guy, of course, has the two eyeballs, and he's gonna summon, I believe he's gonna summon Shinru, and then he kills himself, right? And then it's just an incredible, like, thrilling, dramatic looking at the very least scene that you don't really get in the regular stuff in Heavensward.
Yeah.
No, in Heavensward they took his name is escaping me right now, but I'm just gonna classify him as the Eagle for right now. They sidestep his backstory from that little tidbit at the end of A Realm Reborn's 3.55. That guy, Ilberd, that's what it is, Ilberd. Ilberd is runs back home to Alamigo and in the outskirts and tries to recruit people to reform the revolution and bands the people together in hopes of destroying the Garlemald and restoring hope to the people of Alamigo. But in the course of doing so, he realizes he doesn't have the power in order to spur on the rest of the nations. So he has to form a soul sacrifice of all of his followers and himself, and a catalyst, which are Nidhogg's eyes, which he has been given from the White Ascian as a token of hope and weird connections that don't really pan out for the White Ascian, just for entertainment purposes. Ends up giving him the catalyst, which he then uses upon himself and then kills himself spurring the concoction to form a primal, which is birthed formally as Shinryu, but then Papalymo realizes what's being constructed based on his time with Louis Soix and understands that this is going to be a terrible event, so chooses to sacrifice himself in hopes that he can prolong the inevitable and keep the primal at bay. But doing so means he has to let Ida / Lise
Hey now.
go.
Oh, spoiler alert. Yeah, so that's like the big kind of third section of the game. We did skip over the fact that you do have to get rid of the Warriors of Darkness because they're being they want to destroy your world in order to save theirs or something like that.
Well,
And
they're not really trying to destroy your world. They're trying to prevent what you supposedly are perceived to accomplish. They have the exact same goal you have. They are essentially you in an entirely different reality where they have accomplished your goal already, killed all the bad guys, and saved the realm. But in the process, the white cataclysm at the end of theirs has swallowed their world and essentially sealed it off from ever growing. So they are going into your world to stop you from doing your entire process, which they've already done, to stop the white cataclysm.
Yeah.
But realize it's entirely folly, and now receive the help, as I've stated before, from Hydaelyn, the Mother Crystal, in order to release the white cataclysm on their world and actually allow their world to be reborn again.
What I thought of that kind of section of the game, I didn't think that it was dramatically very strong. Well, as strong as what came previous to it with the dragons and the wars and the Nidhogg and all that. But I did think that once again that the Warrior of Darkness concept was cool. And one of the coolest things I thought about that was like they used the character model from the original FF14 release, which is like just the main straight up, this is your guy, blank face dude that's on the cover of the original release of the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
1.0. And that's like the design of the Warrior of Darkness from FF14. So I was like, oh, wow, they really, if you chose to go with all default kind of stuff, this is kind of like that group of stuff.
Yeah.
Like people. That's a great way for the design to have like kind of reflected what it was doing thematically.
That's something that 14 is famous for, is all the callbacks, right? And I mean, it even calls back to the old version of itself, the one that they had to scrap and completely remake. And I don't know, it's almost it's pretty awesome though when they do shit like that. And I liked that storyline. I liked what was going on with the Warriors of Darkness for a little while, but then it just kind of ended, and it almost just fizzled out for me in the end. Like it wasn't nearly as interesting.
Well, you got to see Benfilia again in like a, I wouldn't want to say FF15 ending ish world.
Well, she ain't there yet. We're not gonna put that in perspective. She's not dead. She's just being possessed at the moment by Hydaelyn.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like she was like, "Oh, this is my world now. I must be here." So I kind of thought took it as death of some kind.
Nah. She if in the cutscene, she will return eventually. In the cutscene, if you read them speed by speed, and you'll realize that she's just being Hydaelyn, sending her envoy Benfilia to the world of darkness to assist in reopening the problem, or reopening a solution to the Warriors of Darkness problem. Which, again, will also be another nugget. So more than likely the Warriors of Darkness will return later for another nugget of information. So potentially another expansion.
Now, Krinital, you might be teasing some Stormblood stuff, but I will remind you that sometimes you think that someone's alive, and then you find out that they've been dead for years.
Yeah, okay, so this was a mindfuck. You remember during the Heavensward review when I said man, the only thing we have left from A Realm Reborn is Ida and Papalymo, which are the best parts of the story to me in Final Fantasy XIV. Their interactions are my favorite. Yeah. And then this fucking expansion, right? This little nugget of quest, whatever the fuck you want to call it, kills Papalymo and then tells us that Ida's been dead for years and it's her fucking sister. And she doesn't have pits for eyes. She's supposed to be blind. Also, hilarious story about the pits for eyes thing when Joe
just go for it.
Joe was in a cutscene. He's like, "Oh man, she's gonna take the mask off and she's gonna have pits for eyes." And I heard tits for eyes, and I could not stop laughing about that. I was like, "Tits for eyes? What the? Why would she have tits for eyes, Joe?" Like, what in God's name?
Just really into some weird shit, dude.
Yeah, and I was just thinking of
mindscapes, man.
I was thinking about that for like the whole time, and I'm like, dude, if she has tits for eyes, it's gonna have to be like those anglerfish eye or the little tentacle things that come off like really long, and like you can, and when she needs to be a little closer to something, she just like pulls it out and like she can extend it like E.T.'s neck. Like, just totally messed up, but yeah.
We all know if you had focused really, really hard on the very end of A Realm Reborn's 2.55 cutscene, where you see Ida and Papalymo stand their ground against Uldah's red flames.
Yeah.
And they Ida, when she fights, she ends up getting her mask cracked, and you get to see her eye, just one eye.
Oh, you're right.
One
Yeah.
tit. One single tit.
Yeah.
All right, let it go, man. Let it go.
Caleb would not let it go that night, so I feel like it's like a bond moment with me and him with 14.
Yeah, it was pretty great. I was laughing my ass off, dude. I was like, what kind of random shit is this?
Anyway, that's kind of like the last part of the patches, is that you find that out after you get the freaking Omega to destroy Shinru.
Yeah, the beetle. It's another thematic moment where you have technology destroying religion and or just old school stuff. So I mean, you summon Shinru, great, but we have this sweet little beetle guy that we're going to summon that's totally man-made, and it's going to crush this primal, this godlike entity, and just lay waste to it. And, of course, they do a sweet little Dragon Ball Z-esque Kamehameha move, and it's just like the power is like pushing between the two, and then they both get wiped.
Yeah.
So that's another cool theme that this game's kind of really touching on, especially in this chunk of quests. I mean, we've got guys calling the Eorzeans like savages, and it's like, you guys do shit so weird, you old school dogs. You that's from one of the Imperial guys that ended up betraying their cause and helping you summon the giant beetle himself. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's always something cool in the Final Fantasy universe, like something that FF10 had a lot of. I mean, we had the Al Bhed with their Machina, their machines, and like that's how they did things, and their opponents would like, very old school.
Not necessarily. The FF10's Al Bhed are Ravagers and Scavengers, and they were repairing and fixing all of the Machina from the old dead world of Titus's previous home of Xanarkin and the entire realm of Spira, as it was the utopia of machines.
Right. I mean, it's more of the opposing ideals. Like, one group doesn't really delve into that because they disagree with it, and then one is all about the tech.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's against futurism and religion trying to fight each other, and one sometimes winning out over the other.
Yeah. The techies totally won this expansion.
Yeah,
and that's surprising.
I did like how you were referencing that Nero Telskeva, which is the guy who is now gonna be a reoccurring person in the storyline for the raids.
Yeah, they shoved in a couple character introductions at the very last patch.
Yeah.
They had because Nero had left the Crystal Tower in shambles, so he had to go find a new way of purpose, and ended up stumbling into the Omega's lair and figuring out that he can awaken Omega. That's how they incorporated him into the game. It was quite nice how they incorporated him by bringing back a nice little nugget of Allegan technology from the history of A Realm Reborn or Eorzea.
Yeah.
They do that every now and again, which is really nice at how they can pluck more information and expand more into the world rather than doing more of things that are just nuanced and familiar from older games than just throwing them into something, expanding on a story.
Right, giving it its own identity kind of a thing. And that's one of the reasons why it hurts me when like a reference game is someone's favorite. Like I'm like, yeah, it can still be pretty fun. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I like FF9, man. I'm so sorry.
You don't have to be sorry. I'm just saying, like, when a lot of times when people tell me, oh, 9 is my favorite, it references all the other games. I'm like, well, if that's the reason why it's your favorite, that's kind of a weird reason. Like, it should be your favorite because it's got a great story and interesting characters and stuff like that. But if it's your favorite because it's a callback, like, aren't the other ones kind of your favorite at that point? Like, it's like, oh,
I understand that. There's different things in mind. As in FF9, not everything is a callback to everything.
Yeah, not everything is.
FF9 has, like, a lot of pieces where they've integrated, like FF14, integrated a lot of old callbacks into the story and given their own feel for the whole part of this the game. It's not like, oh, hey, this is Gilgamesh from FF5 rethrowing himself back in the game over and over and over as like FF5 still here. FF5 has never left. You're always in FF5. We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's
really
fair. And yeah, I do appreciate that when 14 does that with these little add-ons and like expanding on things within its own realm, because it is its own game. I mean, I want to
have more of the information of the world, not more references and not more callbacks, just something new.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's why we're doing the podcast, like, for new things, right? So one of the other things, what was that other character's name? A certain samurai guy that joined the party near the end?
Jeez, I've already forgotten his name. Yugiri and...
He had a very Japanese name. I remember that.
Man.
It was like something Tatsu or something. Mikatsu or something.
I don't remember.
I know Schweiss liked him a lot.
Yeah. Is it the Hyobu? Is that the guy's name? No, never mind. I'm looking at something else. What was that guy's fucking name? He was in like 2 cutscenes. Damn it, it's driving me nuts.
Well, it didn't really matter.
Gosetsu.
There you go.
Oh, God.
It didn't really matter. He wasn't in much of it.
No,
he just kind of
wasn't.
showed up at the end with Nova Scotia.
Well,
or Narotol Skiva, which is a fucking ridiculous name. So I look at it and I go, Nova Scotia. That's his name.
Yeah, he was an enjoyable.
That. Yeah, I can
he
see
was
that.
an enjoyable character as well. Yeah, there were some great introductions, like at the very end, and I was like, this is kind of a weird time to be introducing a character. Like, hey, there's a new guy, but you're not going to learn anything for like a while. So have fun. Because when did this last expansion or this last chunk of patches? When did that release? You're saying it's every 3 months, but was that released 3 months prior to now or prior to Stormblood's release? Like, do you know?
Just to put a pause on you guys, if you guys got to think, I can't even hear a word Schweiss has said. Not a single word.
Are you serious?
Yeah. As soon as you started talking, gone.
Oh, well.
Say it again, but short.
Yeah, I was just wondering if
it was totally corrupted or something. I could not hear a word you said.
I was wondering when exactly the last chunk of these quests came out.
When did the last 3.55 come out?
Yes.
3.55 came out January? No, March. Came out March. 3.55 came out in March. And then 3 months later, July, Stormblood.
Okay, so this hasn't been around for too long. So I guess it's not quite as much of a tease.
He's a plot device kick. He only showed up at like the last two cutscenes of the 3.56 is when they put him in. 3.56.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what goes on with that guy. He seems pretty interesting.
You're gonna like him a lot more, man. He's a real good plot character.
Well, nice. I can't wait to play around with it for 14 hours tomorrow.
Oh yeah,
bright and early.
So I want to get in and talk about the story a bit, and not just going over the plot, but what did you guys think of the story overall? I kind of see it in like 3 different chunks. I see it in the actual Dragonsong War storyline chunk, and then the Warriors of Darkness storyline chunk, and then the summoning of Shinru with the Papalimo and the Ida bullshit as the third storyline chunk. What did you guys think of these storylines?
I agree with you. There are 3 separate chunks entirely for the plot device. There's the Dragonsong War coming to an end, the introduction and the plot point of the Warriors of Darkness, and the Alamegan uprising and resistance creation plot device with the summoning of Shinryu was a lot better of a storyline than I would have hoped for, because I knew that I was not really overall enthused with the Heavensward storyline as a whole. I knew you guys would probably like this one just a lot better because they had more sub-stories, more plot devices, uncovering more secrets, more things. There's a rise in power. There's more plot in this than Heavensward. I
agree with you that, in fact, you were right. I totally do like the storyline of this better. I kind of disagree with you that what makes a story intriguing is more plot and plot devices and other things. What I think makes a story intriguing is emotional attachment and something that thrills you and thrills your soul when you're experiencing a story. And I gotta say that the hard thing with FF14 in general is that it puts on this passive voice, and most of the plot lines are very standard RPG kind of plot stuff, and you don't really get sucked in. However, I got as sucked in as I have been into this game through the first third, the Dragonsong War part of the story. I really thought that was really interesting, and obviously that's the part I remember the most, despite having played the other 2 parts more recently. And Krinital having to explain like the ins and outs of what has actually happened in those parts. I just wasn't connected with it, so I just kind of watched the cutscenes and didn't care. But the Dragonsong War parts were really good.
Yeah, I agree with you. They were. I'm more of a connected on the Dragonsong Wars coming to a conclusion and the Warriors of Darkness overall story. Not really all that hyped about the whole Alamegan build right now, but I found that those were 2 of the better parts of the story as a whole than Heavensward. But yeah, I wasn't trying to push plot as a thing that makes you feel better. You're right. I agree with it. The emotional attachment to characters like you had back in 2.55 when you thought the princess was dead, which was like the biggest bombshell in the whole series at that moment, and you were like, "Oh, want to know."
Something happened. Something happened, and I'm interested. That's what's going on there. So Dragonsong War, things are happening. I'm interested. I'm interested in the shitty leader having to grow up, and despite the fact that he's royalty, getting like spanked by this other guy, and then like of course the barmaid, that was a really intriguing part. I'm like, oh, my character is tired and weary, and then it becomes this crazy twist thing, and then she gets shot at, and that's nuts. And then like, oh, we're gonna have this peace treaty, and it gets shit upon by this dragon. And I just thought that part was it was much better than almost anything, maybe besides that final cutscene of 2.55. But overall, it's even stronger than 2.55.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree. I kind of feel like the last two chunks are in equal camps, though. Personally, I was digging the stuff with Shinru until that plot twist at the end. I really didn't like that much. I mean, and it's because, I mean, I like those two characters. I like their interactions. I thought they were always super funny. They were quirky. They were enjoyable, and they were interesting. They were characters that I actually cared about. And yeah, I know killing a character off that you care about is supposed to have a big emotional thing, but it was like, well, it's kind of what he was supposed to do, so it's not like a huge deal. Like, that's kind of his destiny to follow in his master's footsteps, right?
Yeah.
And but then the Ida thing, I'm like, that one was fucking stupid. Like, I don't know, and it's fine. I guess they could have just not had Ida, but it's just the fact that I said that when the last two things remaining in 1.0 are Ida and Papalymo, and then like when Papalymo died, I was like, oh, Ida's gonna die next, and then the next cutscene was the fucking reveal, and I was like, what? She's been dead this whole time. It's like, why? Like, that's such a weird thing. It's a very bizarre thing to have. It's like a Cloud Zack thing, but like they're sisters, and then people played along for fun. Like, I don't know. I didn't feel it.
For kicks and giggles, they played along.
Yeah, I'm like, are you people fucking nuts? Like, what is this? This is sick. She should
Everybody
see
else
somebody.
knows, FYI.
She should see somebody. Yeah, everyone's lying to me at this point. Like, I'm the asshole in the party here. I'm the guy that doesn't know. And that's the big joke. That's the big fucking kick. Oh, Warrior Light doesn't know. Like, what is that?
I get you. I understand that you have the gripes, and you're fully justifiable, and your gripes of that plot device is not really a strong connection of pushing you into Stormblood. But as the character, you understand that Ida is a little bit of a mystery. She has the mask on all the time. She's always a Papalymo. She doesn't really have all the skill sets as all the other Scions other than her fists. And her background's not really fully fleshed out until these certain moments when the Alamigo is revealed. And I get that, yeah, her entire background could have been a little bit better. She could have been fleshed out a bit better. She could have just not done the reveal and just let her take her helmet off and just call it a day. It would have been still the same thing. Yeah, could have been.
Or it could have just been Ida.
Yeah.
Or it could have just been not Ida. Like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, that woman needs therapy is what I'm fucking getting at here. Like, who does that? Who does that?
Well, she's doing that specifically according to the storyline for fact bases, is that she's doing this to stay undercover so she is not revealed to the Garlean Empire, who is being controlling Alamigo so far, so she is not taken as a hostage and used against her people. So she's trying to subsequently build the resistance, but at the same time trying to make sure she understands herself as a person and develop herself into a stronger character so that she can lead her people back into their home. But yeah.
And looking at the Stormblood artwork, I can tell that looks like that's exactly what's going to fucking happen. So, spoilers, thank you for the artwork on Stormblood. I see her there. I know that's her. But yeah, it was weird because I saw somebody streaming Stormblood, and I was like, oh, can't stay here. And then I looked, and it was like Estinian, and then her, and I was like, I don't know who this is. I gotta get out. And now I know. So, damn it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. Like, it's not. It makes sense, but it's still really weird to me.
Yeah, it's not a strong piece. I get you.
Like, if you're gonna be somebody, why would, if you're on the run, why would you want to be someone you're related to? Because you know who mob bosses and evil people seek when they're searching for someone? Your family.
Searching someone.
They look at your family. They take your family hostage. They go to them to find you. They're going to go to her and find out that it wasn't Ida. It was her the whole time, and they fucking found her. Like, what? No.
Yeah.
From your extensive mob experience,
Yes,
is that right, Schweiss?
I've watched The Sopranos. That's what they do.
I too have watched The Sopranos. It is fantastic. It would have
is.
never had a twist like this.
No.
No.
I gotta admit that. Nope.
Okay, so I'm going to go kind of straight into gameplay, and by gameplay I mean the 6 dungeons that were put, or 5 dungeons that were put into Heavensward. Our first one, I believe, was the Anti-Tower, which had the dolls from FF4 come to pass. I really enjoyed that dungeon, especially kind of seeing the dolls return. What do you guys think of the Anti-Tower, if you can remember it?
Oh, hell yeah. That was a great dungeon. Dude, this game is all about the dungeons. And if there's a dungeon that isn't just a straightforward, straight run, and it has some sort of interesting callback or interesting design, like, it's always awesome. Anti-Tower was great. That was a lot of fun. Felt like FF4 all over again.
And not to ruin your whole spiel on not liking the callbacks, but the Anti-Tower was a nice callback to both FF4 for the boss and FF9 into Oberon's castle as the upside-down place in the being. Now, it would have been a little bit nice on the mechanic there if you had to buy really cheap weapons. That would have been a really nice mechanic of being able to be... It's a struggle because you sold it all. Now you have to go make some cheap ones to be stronger there and there. But overall, the story of that dungeon and the explanation from Matoya it was a good dungeon.
Yeah, and like, I'm cool with callbacks. I am cool with it, but like, I don't know, in dungeon form, it's a lot more awesome to me. But that's probably just because the dungeons are what make it fun. So
right.
Okay, so we also got Sorkai, which I remember most from getting freaking destroyed by this like bird boss that swooped in, and you were supposed to stand next to a wall, and I don't think that was very clear that I was supposed to stand next to a invisible wall, as far as I could tell, and not get hit by this fuckface.
No, see, the reason why you got hit and fell in is because the wall wasn't invisible. There just wasn't one where you were standing.
You did not listen to my orders very specifically.
Stand by the wall, and I looked around. I'm like, what wall? And then I died.
It's like you have a choice. Okay, you're in a pen. You have a bull/horse on the opposing side of the pen. There are 2 walls to the side of you.
God,
do you face the bull, or do you get under the fence? No, you chose to stand there and spin around and then just like, take it. You took the force face on rather than being the smart person, be like the comedy clown in a rodeo and get on the fucking fence and get out of the way.
Wait, so which part of the horse is the bull and which part of the bull is the horse?
It was a classification of a metaphor that the horse was because he charges at you. He charges at you and runs directly at you. He's trying to headbutt.
I believe that you took a demon out of hell and you called it a bull horse.
Yeah, it has the horns of a bull and the speed of a horse. It's terrifying.
Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be terrifying?
Yes.
It would be terrifying. I'm sure that'll be a boss later on in one of the bonus dungeons.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, and then we had the final steps, which I don't really remember all that well.
The final steps of faith would have been the fight with Nidhogg as a trial.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
That's what the changing of the battle types, trying to switch around, fighting the 3 mobs, him activating into rage mode, you trying to shift into the 10 degrees that are only safe in that zone, trying to get underneath him, get behind him.
A lot of dodge and
yeah, it was a good fight. Real good.
Which is kind of what the Heavensward content is all about. Is about AOE dodging. Yeah. As you get up in dungeon, it just becomes more complex. The amount of AOEs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They weren't the listener base. You guys weren't kidding when you said that I was going to have a hard time in these later expansions as a black mage. Like, it hasn't been too brutal to where I've wanted to change jobs, but it's definitely kicked up the difficulty. Like, I can't just stand there and nuke anymore. I've got to shuffle my fucking feet. Yeah. And it's refreshing. Like, it is. It's like, man, it's too bad I wasted that move. I'm now on the move again. Like, it adds a whole new level to the game that almost was rarely,
I think,
if ever, present before.
And I know that they try and compensate that a little bit by giving that new skill set. Did you find that the skill set from 50 to 60 helped you better understanding that fight? Did it allow you to move around more?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm still pretty limited. Like, I still get interrupted when I have to get out of the way, but it definitely lends itself to it. Like, the game lets you learn how to deal with the mechanics, for sure. Like, it's not trying to screw you. I mean, it is to a certain extent, but
there's some stupid... Okay, so, like, this game, someone at some point, either this was released in information with the patches, like, officially from Square Enix, or some poor group had to figure out every mechanic to every single boss in every single dungeon, and had to figure out how to get from one thing to the next. Krinital, have you ever had to figure out a mechanic?
Like, understand it, or just figure out how to solve it?
Like, remember the boss that we just fought in one of the bonus dungeons, where the body part that shined was the body part that you had to attack first?
Yeah, Sunken Temple of Karnhard. That's
like, I can't.
I wasn't there with you. I wasn't there for you, but
okay,
yeah.
Well, that happened.
I remember the fight, but remembering the fact that it's.
I can't imagine anybody being able to just figure that out.
Well, I mean, it does shine.
That one's like a little simpler puzzle, because essentially you're just wailing on it until it breaks.
There's like 12 different ads.
Yeah, but they're all part of the same thing. You're just wailing on it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, though. Like, it would be frustrating to not have someone that knows what's going on. And I guess he's asking, like, have you gone into a dungeon where no one knew what was what? Like, where no one knew how to beat the dungeon, no one knew the mechanic, you were all in there your first time, and you had to figure it out.
That would be the last fight for Stormblood, and the first fight for the Lost City of Mach, which is a raid, an 24-man raid you guys haven't done yet, where you get to see Death Wraith. I think he's from FF6,
is it Death Gaze?
Flying ghost thing that's up in the sky. I don't know if you remember him. He's like a little wraith that causes havoc if you run into him in the sky.
Yeah, it should be Death Gaze is what that is.
Yeah, that guy. You get to run into him, and you're fighting him on top of a ship, and he is throwing out a bonkers amount of platform mechanics. Sorry, not platform mechanics. Grid mechanics, where you have to move from square to square to square to square and dodge and understand how to not fall off the ship. Because I fell off a lot on that ship.
I think there's a boss in either Zelfadal or Belser's Wall that had like the kind of crosshairs grid system and guys coming at you from all sides. That one I remember being kind of hairy. But overall, I'd say that the dungeons in my opinion, I think the dungeons in the second half of Heavensward match the ones in the first half. They're excellent dungeons. And I'm starting to blur all the dungeons together because we've been going through so many bonus ones. I gotta say 14 is made for the dungeons. That's where most of the fun is at. And I don't think this disappoints whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, that's most MMOs that I've played thus far. Dungeons are always the best, but that's, man, I love it because, like, lately it's just been like a dungeon rush for Joe and I. We just get on and, all right, you got this one unlocked? Yeah, all right, let's cruise through this one and then this one and then this one. And, like, yeah, we're dealing with level 50 capped dungeons, so I don't have my fancy new gear, my fancy new abilities, but it's still where the game shines, and it's still a lot of fun, especially because some of those hard mode dungeons that we have been doing that aren't included with Dragonsong War, of course, they're 2.55 dungeons. Those have stronger mechanics than the original ones a lot of the times, if not every time, and they change it up, so like it's not the same dungeon, just harder. It's been a lot of fun. Like, it's totally worth it going through each and every dungeon so far.
Since we're on the topic of the dungeons, Schweiss, I got a question for you. Have you finished collecting all of the pieces to unlock Labyrinth of the Ancients?
I'm in the middle of doing that. That's the one with the four...
You're collecting powder. 3 different fates that you have to do to unlock a very specific type of elemental powder you have to give to a guy who gives you pass, and then you can walk.
He did the fates part.
I did a thing that I had to do 4 fates for.
Oh, I remember 3. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. I thought I was doing Crystal Tower. Was I confused?
You are. Crystal Tower is the group of the raid as a whole, like a bubble of an idea. First chunk is called Labyrinth of Ancients. Second chunk is called Circus Tower. Third chunk is called World of Darkness.
Yeah, I'm on my way to finishing that. I think I got those done, and then I brought the stuff back to those guys, and I need to find out what to do next, because, like, no one there has a quest for me, and there's nothing in the logbook, so... I'm pretty close to being done with it, though, because I did the 4 fates and turned that in.
Because that's one of the first 24-man raids that you guys are going to have access to, and I think you're going to like seeing that nugget of FF3 plot device.
Yeah.
Nice little callback in there.
Yeah, hopefully I can rip the game off if it gets too hard, just like I did in 3. Let's load it back up, baby. It's the way of it.
Okay, so guys, overall, kind of, because I can't really think that there's any real changes. Unfortunately, when we're doing this in 2 different halves, like we talked about, most of it on Heavensward, music is still great, and the design is still the same. So, besides the design of the look of the dungeons, which is sort of our other categories. So overall, what did you guys think of not only just Dragonsong War, but also as a continuation of Heavensward? What did you guys think of Heavensward as a whole? And we'll start with Schweiss.
I think it's a decent expansion. It adds a lot of dungeons. It adds a lot of gameplay. I'm interested in Astinian. I think is a great character. I'm interested in the Dragonsong Wars themselves. I'm interested in the elements of story between Ishgard and the dragons, and I was interested in Shiva and Iceheart and all of that crap that happened. Like that has been awesome. Unfortunately, I'm not really interested in the Warrior of Darkness so much, or the Papalimo stuff at the end. Like it's cool, and I liked aspects of it, but as a whole, I don't think it was nearly as strong as how this thing started out. So, Heavensward is it's a good expansion. I don't know. There are some Final Fantasy XI expansions that I like more, which is weird because they came out forever ago, and like you'd think that the game that I actually think might be more fun would have the better expansions, but that's not really the case so far. But nonetheless, it's something I'm glad I played, if not only for the Dragonsong War section of the story.
And to pick up on that, as a whole, I thought it was nice. It was a nice expansion. Was it I can't really call it their best expansion yet because we haven't fully fleshed out all of Stormblood's patches to completion. But overall, I enjoyed many parts of it. I myself personally liked the Dragonsong War as a whole, understanding Ishgard going back into the 1.0 areas that some of us, not me, I didn't get a chance to do that, but got to see the chunk of Eorzea that was first released fully fleshed out all the way to the back end, and understanding that you can now introducing flying, introducing expanded maps, slightly more complex stories. I enjoyed a little bit more than the A Realm Reborn contents. More fleshed out story. It's not as strong as the 2.55 story of A Realm Reborn, but it's still good. I like it. I like what they did with it. I can't really say it, I like it fully what they did with it. There's some things that I wish they could fix, but there's I wish they would have just done more in-depth things like they did at 3.1 with that bar scene, which more of that stuff would have been nice and not make it so simplistic. Would I go through it again? If I could skip it, I would. It's not bad. It's like a side quest to me. It's not really that important enough. But would I do it? Yeah. Once.
I thought Heavensward as a whole, I played very little of A Realm Reborn before Heavensward came out. But I mean, I enjoyed the gameplay of it. It was fine. Never really thought the story was very interesting. Then, of course, we played it for the show. Still don't think the story is really that interesting, but, kind of near the end of 2.55 is where my interest peaked. And I will say that Heavensward, in its patch content that we're reviewing today, I think is, well, at least the Dragonsong War part is really, really, I think, really good, especially for an MMO storyline. I agree with you, Schweiss, that some of FF11's expansions, in my mind, I really like Wings of the Goddess story-wise, and Chains of Chromathia.
Seekers of Adulin's kind of my favorite now.
But I can't get past imprimaturs when it comes to that Krinital.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That was some hard shit, though, man. That was that game. That expansion was balls out.
Anyway, I do think that Dragonsong War was the part of 14 that kind of came to similar heights that 11's good expansions did. I just wish that we would have more stuff like that, more stuff that's emotionally compelling and interesting and violent and has consequences and really puts you into a world full of strife, as opposed to one where we just walk into rooms and we talk about the thing that we're going to plan to do, and then we do plan that thing, and then the gameplay part is fun. Hey, we're gonna go and go into this ship and plow through its shield so that we can do a fight. Sure, that's fun, but it wasn't really a good story leading up to it. But Dragonsong War, I think, was the exception to all of that, and that was in the Heavensward expansion. So I also think that the dungeons are way better in Heavensward expansion, and the areas, I think, are cooler in the Heavensward expansion as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of my overall thoughts. Schweiss, do you have our rankings by any chance?
Yeah, I do. So, Joe, you had A Realm Reborn 2.55 leading the pack, Heavensward in second place, A Realm Reborn, and then, of course, the beautiful 1.0 cutscenes bringing up the rear. I mirrored that, as did Krinital, it seems. So we're all on the same page here. What are you going to give, or where are you going to place the Dragonsong War content?
Krinital, go ahead.
Let's see. Let me bring up my Excel document like before.
You got 4 choices here.
Oh, I got choices.
Well, you can place it anywhere. Your thing.
We are just ranking Dragonsong War, right? Not the whole.
Dragonsong War by itself.
Yeah, Dragonsong War. Any patch content after Heavensward's initial release is what we're calling Dragonsong War.
All right, just want to make sure we're not just reviewing the Heavensward chunk as a lot.
No.
I would put this as number 2, right before 2.55's content.
Okay. I would do the opposite. I would go, and it's just barely. There was an arm cut off, and shit got crazy at the end of 2.55. It was really cool, but I did think this was dramatically slightly stronger, and it wasn't shit upon later. But that's not why I'm ranking it this way. Yeah. Anyway, I would say Dragonsong War, although it has its weak points, as I would say as a whole, but I'm really just talking about like the last storyline. I didn't think the Warrior of Darkness storyline is that exciting either. But the Dragonsong War was such a high peak that I'm going to put Dragonsong War above 2.55, which is above Heavensward, which is above ARR, which is above 1.0. Story, at least.
All right. Yeah, that's where I've got it too. I do think it is stronger. I mean, that part of there are a couple parts of the story that I don't like at all, but the dungeons, the gameplay, all of that was stepped up a notch. They added flying, for God's sake. Like, a lot of really cool stuff came. I mean, that was actually Heavensward, I guess, but Dragonsong, I do feel like the main story, the Dragonsong War story, is really solid, and it was very interesting. I didn't feel like it was a grind like I did even through most of A Realm Reborn's 2.55 stuff. Now, they did have the great cutscene that everybody loves, the Game of Thrones-esque arm cutting off, poisoning of the princess thing, but even then, like, that was like a drastic high point, but the entire first third of the Dragonsong Wars was all as awesome as that one cutscene. So
yeah, I think I'll probably change my perspective. I'll probably put Dragonsong War as the top for right now, because I understand that because of 2.55 had such a high point and then left me for 6 months in limbo. I'm still reeling off of that emotional 6 months drop of like, no! And then the Dragonsong's War of the buildup of their 3.1 content built it up stronger, and then the story fleshed out a little bit more. So more of the content, more of the story was stronger as a whole, in Dragonsong War than 2.5 A Realm Reborn.
All right.
Content.
Krinital changed his mind.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Peer pressure there.
Yeah, peer pressure.
I'm not going to say it's peer pressure. I'm just like faulting the fact that just reeling back on the memory of all of that story content and getting past the overall 2.5. 2.55 is gone now. You realize that Dragonsong War has been done, and judge it for it as it is. Yeah, as a whole, it's a little bit stronger. Still like 2.55 stuff. Currently, it's a little bit better.
So, right. Krinital, could you give us just a very small, brief review of Stormblood before we have to get to it? What do you think of Stormblood in comparison to the other stuff?
Stormblood, how? See, I have to review this and not spoil it for you at the same time. So
yeah, very quick, just a little snippet.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
Me personally, I think that Stormblood is a much, much better expansion than entirety of Heavensward and Dragonsong War. Just Stormblood alone, I find it more engaging, more thrilling. I've emotionally attached a little bit more to my characters, and I find it the overall quality of it and the difficulty of it and the feeling I get off of it is 10 times better than Heavensward and the Dragonsong War put together, personally.
That is a glowing review for Stormblood.
Now honestly, there are pieces you're probably not going to like, but it is definitely, in my opinion, better than Heavensward.
Yeah. All right. Cool. That's exciting. I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Well, I think we're probably done with our kind of brief Stormblood, or not Stormblood. Ah, jeez.
Dragonsong
War
every time.
And post-Dragonsong War review for the second half of Heavensward.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening to our review of this. Once again, ultimatefinalfantasy.com. You can tweet me at Joseph Gaulier.
Me at UFF Podcast. We got one more thing, though. The reviews from the others.
Oh, we only have one.
We do.
By the way. Do you have it pulled up already?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool.
So last week we asked for the Heavensward / Dragonsong War reviews. Since we already did a Heavensward one, most people were probably like, what the fuck? We already did this. Alistair, on the other hand, rose to the occasion. He said, overall, as an expansion, I think Heavensward is a massive letdown. But on the other hand, I ultimately enjoyed what we got. My favorite part of, and the most important part of 14 to me, has always been the design of the jobs and the fights. Heavensward greatly increased job complexity, and in his opinion, made them all more fun to play. Fights were a lot harder than ARR, notoriously so. But without good adversity, there's no satisfaction and reward. There's no more greater reward than beating a difficult fight without fucking up your rotation once. Content-wise, it was literally ARR +1. They tried to add unique new gameplay systems, and they all crashed and burned. Diadem and Palace of the Dead have the depth of a puddle. Lords of Verminion was an abortion. Jesus. Flying was and still is an amazing gameplay addition for the amount of freedom it offered to people exploring the beautiful locations of the expansion. Story-wise, I like the patch story where you roamed around Ishgard with the unlikely party of you, Alfie, Ysael, and Estinian. They built up to the Knights of the Round fight really well by having you run into separate members of the group in various instances. After that, the story kind of meanders for a patch or two, introduces some cool new characters such as Hydrus and Kryle, and another pretty good finale with Nidhogg. The run-up to Stormblood was pretty meh. The Warriors of Darkness went absolutely nowhere. The revelation that Ida was actually her twin sister, but everyone knew about it and didn't say anything, was fucking retarded. And
my God.
And unlike ARR, they don't really drop us a massive cliffhanger on us. They just leave it. But overall, I think it became a lot more fun to actually play the game, and that's sort of what matters most to him. But as an expansion, it was bad. Okay, slightly differing view, I guess, but along the same lines. It's
just a little bit more hate, a little bit more shade.
Yeah, a little more salt. That's okay, though. Thank you, man, for submitting that.
Yeah, no one wanted to answer that for some reason. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to the show. Schweiss. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Krinital, for being on here.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's always a pleasure.
And you can find me at Krinital, Krinital, at Twitter.
Sweet. Enjoy the MMO grind.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.
And
the show was produced by Joseph DeGaulier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGaulier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.